allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody's here except Mrs. Hatch. We need her. She'll be coming, I'm sure. Okay. First thing on the agenda is to review the minutes of our July 16th, 2014 meeting. Hopefully you all have had an opportunity to look at them. Kathy sent them online. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as reported?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I have a second? Second that. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we're going to start with, we have some guests tonight. We didn't make any cookies or anything. I'm sorry about that, because we're not very hospitable. They're supposed to bring them? Oh, and then they bring Dunkin' Donuts stuff. We all know how well that went, don't we, Mr. Fuller? Okay. Let's start with Cindy Grant's first on the list. I didn't either. She's stuck down the chair.
I just wanted to confirm something. I do have a petition. I did gather signatures for a recall ordinance.
Okay.
When I wrote the petition and gathered signatures, I saw a great need to do something to help the town. And that was because since town meeting until just recently, this town and this board was in total chaos. And about as dysfunctional as I've seen in 17 years of being a public employee. I just want to let you know that from what I'm seeing, I don't see a need to turn it in right now, and I don't want to cause the town any extra bother, because if I turn it in now, you're going to have to hold another special election, which we don't need the expense or the aggravation. So what my thought is I will turn it in September. That way it can be done on the November referendum when you have to have a state election anyway. And just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
Okay?
Perfect.
But
Thank
it
you.
is here, and
Okay.
it will be turned into you.
Okay, thank you. Next on our guest list is Karen Fassel. Karen, I don't have all of your credentials here, so I'm going to ask you to do that. I know you're a committee on the Main Recycling Commission, but I asked her to come speak to us, or she sought us out, so I'm going to let you go forward.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair and Selectmen. Thank you very much for having me come. My name is Karen Fassel. I am a board member of the Municipal Review Committee, and I'm also the finance director for the City of Brewer. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about MRC's plans and preparations for post-2018, which is when the municipal waste contracts with PERC will expire. And I have, what I'd like to do is provide you a brief history and an overview of the MRC's work on the post-2018 issue. And in the very immediate term, the MRC is seeking letters of support from member communities, of which Clifton is one, for its public benefit determination application that's currently before the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. Letters need to be in by September 1st. And it's my sincere hope to leave here tonight with a commitment from this body for a letter from Clifton. I have some handouts for you. First off, I have, if you don't mind passing them around to the separate groups. And I brought 6 in case you need to
That's fine, thank you.
But the first items are some easy to read, frequently asked question type sheets that explain, first of all, why PERC is not likely to be operating after 2018. And the second one is what the MRC is doing to replace PERC. I also have what are, pass those around as well. Those are materials that MRC has been handing out at the regional information meetings that it's been holding around the state. And inside the back cover, I have provided you a list of communities that have either already submitted or have committed to submitting letters of support on the application, as well as some sample letters to give you an idea of what it is that we're looking for. Short and sweet would be fine. We're just looking for people to express their support of MRC and our process and approach to this issue of post-2018. I don't usually like to do this, but I wrote out some things because I get very animated and passionate when talking about trash, and I didn't want to take up too much time and get off topic. So, first off, a little history about MRC. MRC is a nonprofit organization comprised of 187 municipalities and regional districts that have contracts to send their mixed solid waste, or MSW as we refer to it, to the PERC Waste Energy Facility, which is in Warrington. MRC is governed by a 9-member board, which is comprised of municipal and former municipal officials, which are elected at large by the members. So Clifton has an opportunity to vote to elect people to the board as do all the other members. Tab 1 of the handout provides some more detailed type history of PERC and the MRC, including some of the major milestones of MRC's post-2018 planning, which really got underway in earnest in 2007, so we've been at it for quite a while. For those of you that don't know, PERC began operating in February of 1988. It was built with essentially a 30-year time horizon, hence the 30-year waste contracts, disposal contracts with municipalities, which are all set to expire in 2018, every single one of them. Within 2 years of opening, due to poor revenue and expense projections, PERC was on the verge of bankruptcy and threatening to raise tip fees substantially. Out of that effort, towns banded together to try to increase the negotiating capacity with the PERC partners to try to deal with the issue. And out of that effort, the MRC was formed to manage municipal contracts with PERC and to oversee the facility operations and economic performance, which it has done since that time for essentially 23 years. Since then, the MRC has navigated several significant crossroads in PERC operations and has managed to successfully deliver on its mission, which continues today, of ensuring affordable, long-term, environmentally sustainable disposal of MSW for its member communities. Once again, however, PERC and the MRC are at another crossroads. The first of the 2 fact sheets I provided, one that says, why can't we just keep sending waste to PERC after post-2018, as well as tab 2 of the handout, explain the problems PERC faces that seriously threaten its viability. First and foremost, in 2018, in addition to all the waste contracts expiring, the power purchase agreement that Bangor Hydro, which is now in Mirror has with PERC will expire. The contract rate that PERC is receiving from Emera right now is about 3 times higher than the market rate. When the power purchase rates return to market levels in 2018, it's going to mean a loss of about $13 million a year in revenue. PERC will need to make up that lost revenue through higher tip fees. We're estimating in excess of $100 a ton, perhaps as high as $130 or $140 a ton. That's a big increase. Currently, member communities are paying $55 a ton disposal based net. Tip fees at this level would make it virtually impossible for PERC to attract enough waste to operate efficiently or cost effectively. You probably don't realize this, but 1/3 of the waste that it currently processes, about 100,000 tons a year, comes in from out of state or remote Maine locations because the member communities don't generate enough for the plant size. These sources will dry up with tip fees over $100 a ton. Actually, right now, PERC charges lower rates than we pay, actually, to those outer market customers to entice them to bring their waste to Maine so that they can operate the facility at peak performance. And they can do that because they get so much money from the power they generate, it makes it cost effective. But once they lose that above market rate for electricity, it won't make any sense to do that. Unfortunately, PERC's aging technology is not scalable. The boiler performance suffers and cost per ton increases substantially as volumes fall under that magic 300,000 tons per year the facility was constructed for. The PERC partners, who are the sort of private sector entities that also co-own and manage the plant, their approach to the impending loss of electricity revenue has been to seek a replacement subsidy from the state. They tried to put legislation through last session that would have imposed a $14 per ton surcharge on waste going into landfills that then would somehow in some complicated formula get returned back to communities to help offset the increased tip fees. The MRC does not agree with that approach, and we don't think the legislature will support it either. We don't want people to have to subsidize waste processing. We feel like we should pay as we go. Furthermore, the MRC's goal really is to facilitate a waste arrangement that's going to encourage reduction, reuse, and recycling. PERC's current need for tonnage really works counter to that goal right now. It needs tons to fill it. The more you recycle, the worse it is for the plants, unfortunately. So that's been a constant source of tension for us. And unfortunately, the PERC partners have refused to join the MRC in exploring possible new alternative technologies that could be used to retrofit PERC to address this problem and other post-2018 issues. So in 2013, last year, the MRC, we issued a request for expression of interest seeking formal proposals for alternative technology providers. And while we included PERC retrofit as an option, we also saw proposals that would develop an alternative technology in a new location, since we're having problems working with the PERC partners. We received 15 submissions from around the world, and we made several site visits to different facilities in Canada and the US to investigate the technologies. Tab 3 of the handout provides some information about MRC solicitation and the resulting top contender, a company called Fiberite, which takes a mixed waste stream and using mechanical and biological processes to recover up to 80%, or approximately 80% of the municipal solid waste into recyclables and other saleable products such as ethanol, biogas, and biomass pulp products. A critical piece to any waste processing is the disposal of unprocessable or unprocessable residue. And that's where MRC's application to the DEP comes in, as MRC is seeking approval to site a new landfill, since, as we outlined in tab 4 of the handout, the current disposal capacity across the state is really, existing sites is limited. MRC's identified 2 potential sites, one in Argyle and one in Greenbush. And the first step in the very lengthy multi-step process of siting a landfill is the determination of public benefit, where DEP needs to decide whether there is a need for additional capacity and will serve the public benefit. As I indicated, the MRC is seeking letters of support from its members for its application. We strongly believe there's a need and that the MRC's efforts are in the best public interest of the region. Given the serious issues that PERC faces, an alternative needs to be developed, and we believe a publicly managed and controlled waste management solution represents the best approach for citizens. MRC's vision is that of an integrated waste system, an integrated system of MSW management that will lead to more recycling, create innovative processing capacity to segregate organics, and create value from them by producing clean energy products and minimizing the amount of residue that requires landfilling. I don't know if you know, but about 33% of the MSW that goes into PERC ends up as residuals and goes up to Juniper Ridge. You know, our goal, the MRC's goal, is to overall reduce the amount of MSW going in to be processed by source production, reducing, reusing, encouraging recycling on site by communities. But then what does get up there, we're hoping to reduce that through technology like Fiberite by 80%, so that only 20% of what's left needs to be landfilled. MRC's application to DEP embodies that vision. It respects the local preferences of MSW collection and transfer and recycling programs from a large and diverse group of Maine communities. It seeks a future facility scale that's focused on the region's needs only and not out-of-state waste, as PERC relies upon. It speaks to future MSW processing agreements where towns can avoid rigid minimum delivery guarantees and be free to make further gains in local diversion and recycling, as I mentioned. It seeks to develop a solution based on public ownership and control. It seeks to stand on your own 2 feet, approach to project economics that needs not rely on ongoing subsidies from others. And it seeks a new integrated system that can adapt to future changes in MSW generation composition and involving markets for useful products derived from the processing and recycling of MSW. I hope you agree that MRC is working in the best interest of the region and document that with a letter of support. Thank you very much for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Covered this very high level.
Yeah, that was great. Anybody have any questions?
Do you have a card with your number?
I do. I'd be happy to provide you that. Yeah. Yes?
Nothing, I attended a recent hearing up in Old Town on this subject. There wasn't a single person who attended, and the room was full, who was for this project. Most of the people who were against it were unhappy with the fact that we have spent so much time and effort cleaning up the Penobscot, and that this does endanger our water supply, and all the work that we have done to clean this up, to fix it for salmon and to open it up for alewives. There was a lot of objection by the tribes that live along that river. And they wanted to get together and promised to get together as a national group to fight this because they felt it was genocide. There were people from Suncays Meadow who came, who said they felt they were very concerned for the wildlife there. I like your presentation. I like the idea of 80% being turned back into something. But the other complaint that this general consensus of people was, we really don't want to take other people's waste, and can't we figure out some better ways of taking care of our own, looking at different technologies, working with the universities, and coming up with better plans than the ones we have, which can endanger the work we've already done so hard to repair for our environment and our fisheries and recreation, etc. Maine has the highest still cancer rate in the United States, and we need to take care of our water. It is precious. And the landfill aspect of this threatens our water. And that's something that our communities need to look at.
Well, if I may address a couple points.
please.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, and it's true that obviously there's concern. I have to say that nobody enjoys or wants to have to site a landfill. And we certainly don't. If there was an alternative to siting a landfill, we certainly would pursue that. The MRC feels very strongly that having ownership and control of the place where the residuals go is fundamental to developing an affordable solution that is long-term for this region. And I agree with you, and MRC agrees, that what we want to do is maximize the diversion. We want to maximize the amount we reduce the waste to begin with, our reuse of the waste, and the recycling. And we're encouraging, and we want to develop a solution that encourages communities to maximize that at the source where they are, solutions that work for them and their community and their citizens. And then, but regardless, everybody has waste that they generate. I mean, it's just a fundamental fact. And so we need to deal with that. There's nothing, it's not going to go away.
No,
we can hope to reduce it. We're going to encourage, we're going to take steps to reduce it. But we need to manage it, what remains. So I have to say, you know, like I said, we don't want to do this landfill process, but it is one of those necessities. And I will say that the landfill approval and application process, like I said, has multiple steps. This first step is simply the Department of Environmental Protection determining whether there is a need, a legitimate need. And that is really all that they're assessing at this point. And then further in the process, then begins all of the environmental studies and those sorts of considerations to go into the licensing and permitting process. So there is much to do before this will ever happen. And like I said, what we're seeking is support for MRC's process in its current application that says there is a capacity need because we're very concerned about the future of PERC. If PERC is not here in 4 years, what are we going to do with our waste? We need to have a plan. This does not commit Clifton or its citizens to follow MRC's eventual plan. We will have a process we are anticipating in 2016 where we will have, by then, by the end of 2015, we're anticipating having a formal plan and proposal with financing in place and a construction timeline and all those sorts of things that people, something concrete that people will be able to vote on and decide whether or not you're interested in joining. Obviously, we need to have a critical mass and a certain number of people participating in this solution for it to be viable. So we will be using the year 2016 to determine whether or not we have that support from enough members in the region. And at that time, certainly, I mean, like I said, this letter of support is nothing more than an expression of support. It's not a commitment. So I appreciate your comments, and we are concerned about those same things. For the fact of the matter, there will be residuals from whatever process we end up with, and they will go somewhere, whether it's Juniper Ridge. There's really not capacity
Where
there,
we place those and how much of those we decide to make are decisions we will have to make.
Yes, and MRC's goal right now is to minimize the residuals. The PERC's partner right now have no plans to alter their technology.
I just know that we've spent millions and millions and millions and millions cleaning up our environment, and most of us don't want to see that wasted again.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
Yes.
I appreciate your presentation and support everything you said, but
I'm kind of curious, just out of my own ignorance. To me, a state government ought to be providing infrastructure. And getting rid of trash isn't infrastructure. I don't know what is. So what, I hesitate to ask, is there a stand on the LePage administration on a solution to this, or are they just hoping other people will take care of it?
I actually don't know where the LePage administration stands on this, and I don't know. I guess my answer is the MRC does not feel like it can count on the state of Maine and the legislature to solve this problem for us. I don't know if that answers your question, but personally my feeling is they own Juniper Ridge, and one would think that there would be some sort of a solution whereby that could work to our benefit, but the problem that they have is this long-term contract with Casella, so really you're not dealing with the state, you're dealing with Casella, and Casella is a profit-making entity and is not going to want to deal with us in 30-year contracts at low rates of disposal. And that's the problem that we have. They might lure you in with nice, rates for 5 years or 10 years, but then you're going to be beholden to the beast. But it would be nice to think that we could work together to this. But it's a very it's a large ship that moves very slowly, and we're running out of time. Honestly, 4 years is not a lot of time.
Well, it's obviously tied up in whatever energy policy is going to be.
That too. Yep.
Any further questions from anybody?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Select board,
I'll make a motion that the select board is in full support of the efforts of MRC to develop options for various waste disposals after 2018.
Second.
all those in favor?
And let it be done.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And next on our list is Frank Bellevue from Innovative Surface Solutions. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you. First of all, a little history on what I do. I'm the territory manager for Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Our company sells liquid de-icers. Maine DOT is one of our contracts. Towns like the city of Presque Isle and Caribou are some of the towns we deal with, and then obviously some down south. One of our biggest distributors in Maine is Paris Farmers. He distributes liquids to a lot of towns. One of the reasons I'm here is we partner with American Rock Salt. I don't sell salt. My company sells a liquid to the international. We partner with American Rock Salt, International Rock Salt, CIFCO, most major salt companies in the U.S. The reason for me being here tonight is some changes have happened, or some products that are available to you folks weren't available a couple of years ago. International Salt has a product, it's called treated salt, that they put up on Searsport. And also there's a stockpile in Newington. Now you say, well, geez, why would you treat your salt? Salt is treated with a product, magnesium chloride and molasses. That product is called Ice Be Gone. I'd be glad to pass it around. It smells like molasses because that's what it is. It comes from, in Maine, it comes from Crosby's up in St. John. That liquid has a seal from the EPA designated for the environment. This liquid is used, like Caribou uses in and of itself sometimes just to treat the salt as a de-icer. It's less corrosive than rainwater. Now, the purpose of treating salt, and this is what salt looks like. I'll pass it started around so you can look at it. Salt, and especially last winter, when you have temperatures that are below 20 degrees, salt starts becoming ineffective. So what do you think applicators do with, I know it's contractors. If you're putting out salt and it's not working, what are you going to do? More salt, right? It's about the worst thing you can do, all right? And then this woman in the back mentioned rivers. And what happens is, too, some folks, they mix it with Salt sand mix, you've heard that terminology. Maine DOT is designated some areas as salt priority. They've tried to get away from sand for this reason. On a paved road, sand serves absolutely no purpose. It's not a de-icer. It makes you folks feel safe when you're driving on it because of the grit. But what happens with sand is it's probably, I think it's 7 to 1 as far as cost to clean up. It has to be swept. Sand, when it gets in streams, carries phosphorus, which raises the COD and BOD levels of water, which in turn ruins the life, the bottom third of the stream of the lake, which is very difficult to get back. I mean, once you lose that, it's never coming back. This product, the magnesium chloride, we're working with Cornell University right now. We're using it as a fertilizer on corn. It's yielded another 20 bushels an acre. And one of the reasons that we're kind of high on it, and I'm going back to the phosphorus, is that one of the things that we've found is it opens up the root structure of the plant and enables it to get phosphorus naturally out of the soil so that you don't have to add phosphorus. So I say that so you have some idea what this product is. Now for a town like Clifton, you have contractors and everything else. Obviously you don't want to go to the expense of putting tanks and everything else on a truck. Well, treated salt is available to you folks between $15 and $20 more a ton. You know, you got to think fiscally. But when you use treated salt, you should use between 20 and 40% less than what you put out, and that's the whole purpose of it. If you're gonna buy that product or purchase a product, put it out at the same rate or use it the same way that you use white salt, you're throwing money away. Part of the things that we do as a company, I mean, we train, like Sanford, we've done drivers training there for the city, Scarborough. I've gone on the road circuit with Vermont LTAP, Maine LTAP. Any of these products, if you don't use them properly, isn't good. But used properly, you should be reducing the amount of material you're doing. You're becoming more fiscally responsible and more efficient too, because that salt, that treated salt, you'll have water running down the street at 15 below zero. That's not going to happen with white salt. So that's how it works. That's the purpose. The other thing with it is, if you've ever followed a truck that's not using liquid, you notice that the salt is bouncing all over the place. That's treated with 8 to 10 gallons, well, about 8 gallons per ton of this ice begon. So when it hits the roadway, it stays. The other thing I know when I spoke to the town administrator, town manager, and that you deal with contractors, and I know your bid's going out, and I just think that, you know, even with a contractor, there's towns that use this. Brennan, I think, which is pretty close to you folks, Union uses treated salt in this area. You as a community should at least know how much material they're putting out. You can require these contracts to calibrate their equipment. It's not that difficult. We give classes on even the manual systems, you know, on how to do that. So that's the whole purpose. I'm here tonight. It just seems like, and again, I don't sell the salt. We sell the liquid, but we do go around and train them. And
So they're gonna be able to use the same system as they use now?
yes, and actually what happens from a contractor's point of view, if you recall, if you can pass that around if you folks want to look at it, that's encapsulated with this ice begon. So when that goes in a piece of equipment, and this is really not an advantage to you folks, but certainly an advantage to the contractor, that salt is 70% less corrosive in that form when it goes into the hopper of the spreader. The other thing that it does is it doesn't clump in the garage, and it's a lot more environmentally friendly. And again, if you look it up on the EPA website, it's under magic salt, and it has a seal designated for the environment.
It'll do less damage to the cars than what we're using now.
Oh, yes, but again, what happens is when that goes into a brine, in order for a salt to work, it goes to a brine. And I mean, it's a chloride, that's less corrosive, but I mean, I'm not gonna come up here and tell you it's not completely non-corrosive. Yes?
Sand is messy, and yeah, we like it. It's got a lot of traction. So when we remove the sand, what have we lost in traction and/or any other safety factor?
Now, if you apply salt, using the proper techniques and methods, you shouldn't have to use sand. Now, you have to use sand on a gravel road, obviously, because you can't. If you put salt or any de-icing agent, you blow that gravel road open, you're going to have mud, so you don't want to do that. But another area where we would, or another situation where we'd use sand sometimes is an ice storm. Obviously the town's not big enough to pre-treat, but that would be another thing. Too much sand is no good, too much salt is no good. I mean, with the whole idea of this stuff is to use products that work at lower temperatures and use them responsibly. Yes, ma'am.
So what you're saying is we would buy the salt and you would treat it?
No, it comes treated. It's sitting on a pier just like that. They do it with what they call a pug mill, which is a conveyor and mix it. CS-port, yes.
We would have to bear the expense of training our contractors to administer or apply this.
I would, as far as training, I'm sorry, ma'am.
That we'd have to train the contractor we have if he's not already trained.
We would train them for you
What's it made
at
of?
no expense.
Salt with molasses and it.
But we would still need to use sand
It's
on
not
our dirt roads.
Yes, yeah, and again, you could cut back on that. I mean, if the whole purpose of this is to get folks to start thinking about what they're putting on these roads. Because let's get back to the sand. You put tons of sand out there, and you've got people driving over it. It hasn't hit Maine yet. Presque Isle, they have to monitor it. What's in the sand? Oil. I mean, so and you got to dispose of that. I'm not saying that there's not a need for it, but I mean I want you to think responsibly about it. I'm not going to tell you the town I live in. They use a ton of sand. I hunt, I fish. I've got a beautiful trout stream that runs right through my property. I live on a paved road. It's a back road, probably similar to what's Clifton. I see the sand running right into the stream. In that sand, you can actually see the algae growing right out of it. And again, we keep doing that. There's not going to be any streams left. And Irene, I work Vermont. Irene was less. The storm wasn't as strong as the hurricane of '38. Yet Irene caused more damage because of all the buildup over the years of sand and everything else. Now Irene cleaned that out and it all wound up in Long Island Sound in New York, but I mean, still it's not, we just made it New York's problem, but I mean, those are the things you gotta think about. Yes.
Frank, how do you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if there's, say we did a stockpile of it and we have some left, how does that stand up over time? Do we have to replace it?
No, again, because you're buying it already treated, it's got the right mixture in it, the right blending. You could start treating it now and it'll be all set. You could keep it a year. Okay. Middlebury, Vermont chose to treat it themselves because treated salt with using this product is not available in Vermont. So what towns will do is buy the ice be gone from us, treat it themselves, and put it up. They mix up 2,000 tons a year and just keep it in shed. This treated salt is a way for towns to become more efficient and keep it simple. You don't, like I say, you're not dealing with all the tanks. And for small towns, even that have highway departments, I say, there's always a cost. And, you've got to be able to maintain the equipment. So this is simple and easy for you if you're looking for alternatives.
Do you have any history with small towns that you've dealt with that have transitioned from our regular, I'm just thinking about contractors that we have and have used. I mean, they do their own sand, then we buy salt, they mix the salt. Last year we had a huge issue with a lot of sand being placed. And,
I'll tell you,
how do you change that mindset?
When you write your RFP, you'd be very specific on it. And I've had some towns that have looked at it, And I've actually talked to contractors, and everything was going well, and you know, then we had one selectman that said, geez, we don't want to switch, you know, because of we want to continue to use the sand and everything else. I mean, but again, it's, let's face it, you're paying the bill, and you use, in talking to folks, it was, for a small town, it was quite a substantial amount of salt.
Yeah.
You know, you're paying, you've got a right to know what material is going on the road, how much is going on the road, and to determine what that application rate should be. And I can tell you, it should be anywhere between 350 and 5, and you know, if it's not treated, 500 pounds per lane mile. And these guys they can do, you know, I don't know what they can monitor this. We give courses, even if they don't use our products, on teaching these guys how to calibrate their equipment so that you know, if nothing else, you know what you're putting down. Now, this all sounds well and good. There are times that Mother Nature wins. I mean, there's, you know, you folks live in Maine. I don't have to explain it to you. You know, it's the same. I live in central New Hampshire. It's the same thing. And it's, you know, all this stuff was tested to the, you know, put right to the brink last year with the winter that we had. And I can tell you the towns that use these practices fare better. The other thing that you want to be doing is, and I think, what was the salt bid up here, 80, how much a ton?
Oh, it was like 60-something dollars a ton. Yeah.
I can tell you in other parts of my territory, the salt bids are coming in 30 to 40% higher. And I think, you know, I don't know how I don't, the bids in Maine haven't come out, you know. That being said, you want to start thinking about doing, you know, using less. And they're already talking that there's going to be shortage. I mean, the winter was just so bad last year that you can only mine so much salt. Yes?
Do you have any sample RFPs you might be able to share with the board?
I don't, but I think if you talk to Union, I forget the town manager's name up there, but Union, Brennan, I can get you spec sheets for the salt, all you would have to do is call International Salt. But I have MSDS sheets they can send you, and you deal with Rosemary down there, they'll give you a price. Yes?
How much is this a ton treated?
Treated, it's between $15 and $20 a ton more.
More than what?
More than what we're paying now.
Right, more than white
60
salt
or
usually. Yeah. Yes?
Biological question. Our animals already really like coming to the salt we put out. How does adding molasses, which is yummy enough to them, alter that dynamic?
I've heard you know, some of them say they like it. I mean, deer and moose like salt. It's magnesium chloride.
Goats and sheep and horses love molasses too, so I mean,
Yeah.
I can see why. I just wondered if
I
there were
haven't
any
had
studies or anything.
you know what? I haven't had the incidents yet with sheep or horses as far as going out on the road, but you know, obviously there's deer and.
I just wondered if it increased the attractiveness or not, if there had been any studies done.
Oh, will it hurt the animal?
No, will it attract them to the substance, which then makes them a road hazard and other
Right.
things.
No, the other
But
thing
no, it's
too
just a
is,
question.
just so you know too, this, when you talk about magnesium chloride, you're talking about a concentration level here of 30%.
I'm talking about the molasses, just the molasses.
Oh, okay,
The sticky stuff that's holding it there, and
right.
most of those, that's what we put in the feed to make our animals really like it.
What, I'm sorry?
I said you should do a study. Maybe you could advertise you get less roadkill on the roads.
You might,
Yeah, I get enough questions dealing with this stuff.
but that's the
That
kind
could
of
be a
thing
selling
that
point.
biologists should figure out.
I can tell you, once towns go to this, they tend to stick with it just because of the effectiveness of it. The big problem that you have, quite honestly, here is you got that contract situation. And that's, you know, that's something that you can manage. And my company, which it would be through me, if you wanted to train your contractors, and I have no problem too. It's just like if the Board of Selectmen didn't want to use this product isn't going to work. You know, I think I told you folks before, I'm a retired police chief, I've been a town administrator. I know when you get new programs in, you know, you got to want to make it work. That being said, I would be willing to meet with your contractor to go over all this and give them whatever training they need. New Hampshire is looking at certifying contractors to, if they put out salt or de-icing materials, New Hampshire has a certification program right now. It's not mandatory yet, but it's coming, and the reason being is, really, if you think about it, the roads are the least of our problems. Think of all of the asphalt parking lots and some of the way that the contracts are written is, it's by the amount of material they put out. Well, if you're in business, I mean, we can all be as environmentally conscious as we want, but we gotta put food on the table. Oh, let's crank this spinner up a little more, so you gotta think of that.
No rocks in it either.
What's that?
No rocks in it.
No. That's true. That's true.
The window guys are being advantage.
Yes.
I'm thinking that we have several roads that start out with tar, end in dirt, start tar, end in dirt, go to tar again,
Yep.
that kind of thing.
Wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. And, because quite honestly, you can't, you gotta think of the contractor, so you gotta think of logistics. That's, handle, if those routes, are tough to manage, Do you do any dust control now or any road stabilization with your gravel?
I haven't seen
How many miles of gravel road do you have?
Oh, it's not very many miles.
Cut down a lot, because I've had a lot of.
We only have about 12 point something altogether.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But most of
but
them are hot
our-
top and then dirt.
Our major road, and the one we have the most concerns and problems with, is 180 from Clifton, it goes into Otis,
Okay.
which is a state aid road, but we take care of it in the wintertime.
Is that one of the roads that the state turned over to the town?
Yeah.
They won't take it back.
No. No, you're gonna see more of that too.
Yeah.
As you folks know, road maintenance is expensive, especially if you have to.
I think this would be an excellent product for something like that, because it's a hard road anyway.
Yeah.
And it's got a long, steep hill. And a lot of salt and sand.
You can do all kinds of
We
stuff.
use a lot of salt and sand over there.
Right. I gave you the 10-cent version of this. When I took this job, I was thinking, geez, I've dealt with municipalities, but to be honest with you, I didn't realize this was quite a science. And I will say this for the state of Maine. You folks are very fortunate, and Vermont and Maine lead the country in snow and ice management.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that's, that's really something to be proud of. I wish I could say the same for New Hampshire. I looked at it, and they're tough. They're just 300 years of tradition unhampered by progress.
Any other questions of Frank before we let him go? Do you have any information, or is it all online under?
I can send it. You know what I need? Can I get it? I did get it last time. That's on the card. Do you have an email address that, or a card or something that I can go?
Town of Clifton.
Town Clifton, one word. At AOL.com.
Town clerk, one word.
Town of Clifton.
Town Clifton.
Yep.
At?
AOL.com.
Oh, okay.
Simple.
And like I said, we don't sell it. I'll send you information on, for international. And like I said, if even if I don't do business with you, and you want me to talk to your contractors about applications and things like that, we do that. We're here for long run. So.
Thank you very much.
Excellent,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. You folks have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Okay, next on the agenda for guest, I guess, is Bruce Davis. Wasn't on my paper, so I'll add you.
Well, we were
I
looking
was
for
invited,
response.